Welcome everyone. Today it is finally time to talk about the Archimedea. Now, I'm going to try and keep this video as short as possible because there is a ton to talk about here. First and foremost, this is kind of like end game, if you want to call it that, systems. So there's a lot to it, and you don't get access to it for quite a while. If you do not recognize this area, just go do your quests. With that, let's get started talking about Deep Archimedea, followed by Temporal Archimedea. They have a lot of similarities, so Temporal should not take much time. But first and foremost, Deep Archimedea. Deep Archimedea, which you get if you are maxed out with a Cavia. We're here in the Sanctum Anatomica, which is where you will start it from. You do need to be max rank 5 with the Cavia in order to have access to this. And then Necroloid will appear up here. When he appears up here, this is the menu that you will be confronted with. This menu on the right here, if you look at Begin Research, this normally will ask you for 2 of your 5 total Netrocell runs per week in trade for being able to run the Archimedea for the week as much as you want and get rewards from it. You also will spend 2 of those Netrocell charges on the Temporal variant, meaning that 4 of your Netrocell charges a week will go into the 2 Archimedea, and you'll have 1 Netrocell to run, so you won't run the 5 Netrocells you could normally run, which is what I would suggest for newer players. Now, why? Why should you run this? Well, both Deep Archimedea and Temporal Archimedea have reward tracks, which you can see have research points to build up to different rewards here that I've checked off. And further than that, they have higher reward tracks on the Elite variant, which gives even more rewards. This essentially allows you on regular Archimedea to turn the 2 rewards, which are these, which kind of basically are the rewards that you'd get from a Netrocell, into those plus everything else in the track. In this case, on regular, it's some Lanthorn, and then also a gold box instead of these silver boxes, which is basically just better chances at Tauforge shards. And then at the top here, we have unlocking Elite Archimedea. So once you've unlocked Elite Archimedea, in addition to the gold box and the 2 regular boxes, you will also get another gold box and a purple box. The purple box is the thing that you really want here, because these are going to be your legendary arcanes, which are less good than maybe you'd want, but also the best chance at Tau-forged Archon shards, which are the primary draw of both of these different Archimedea modes. For that, how do you get all this? How do you make the number go up? How do you make it go better? The way that you get all this stuff is by activating your personal modifiers. So your individual parameters are these 4 slots, which are gear restrictions for your Warframe primary, secondary, and melee weapons, and then your individual parameters that are just kind of like restrictions for you in the mission. Gear can't be used. You get 75% max energy reduction. You can't use your operator. You drain energy when enemies are near you. We're going to go over all of those individually and talk about which ones are impactful. Spoiler alert, most of the ones that are impactful are actually here right now. This is a real pain of a week. But in addition to that, you turn all of these on, both the top 4 and these bottom 4, and then for regular Archimedea, that will unlock your Elite variant. Notable that you unlock the Elite variant 1 time. You only ever have to do it once, and just to talk about this right now, if you just want to unlock that and you're like, well, my shit sucks this week, so that's just going to be a real pain, just ask someone to carry you. You can turn on all of these parameters. You can just, fully do up your whole gear and all of your individual parameters, all 8 of these, and get all the way up to where you're going to unlock Elite Archimedea, and then just ask someone who's not going to adhere to any of this nonsense to just kill everybody. 1 fully unrestricted Warframe in these missions shouldn't have a problem with literally any given one of them if their Warframe's any good. 1 person can easily do all these missions without restrictions on them. No problem whatsoever. We're going to kind of circle back to that being the case in a moment, but let's talk about what Elite Archimedea, once you get into it, requires from you and what you should be doing about it. So, for Elite Archimedea, if we look at the track down here and I start turning on these modifiers, you can see how much it goes up by. These last 4 chunks here, which are basically 1 reward each, are the gear requirements that you're going to want to bring. 1 will get you to this Phosphor, 2 will get you to this gold box, and the 3rd will get you to this purple box. You can see this Phosphor times 50 is not checked off for me. I don't do all the parameters each week on Deep Archimedea because it's just not worth it. 50 Phosphor is functionally nothing. There's a lot better ways to get this resource. So I would suggest just not fully completing your Deep Archimedea each week. I would suggest doing it once, because there is a unique cosmetic that you get for doing it 1 time. But other than that, you can pretty much drop 1 parameter each week. Now, which one should it be? Well, if you get really good Warframes that you're very comfortable using and really good weapons that you're very comfortable using, Well, clearly it shouldn't be any of those, and you just get pick of the litter on these different ones that you can just turn off. So whether that's like gear or whether that's like max energy or yada yada, totally up to you. But let's say, for example, just a hypothetical here, all of the weapons that you get, they super suck. If that's the case, easy fill in here is that you just at least have them. You can hold them and pick one of the Warframes that don't need their weapons. Great examples of this: Baruch, Dante, Styanax, even like Valkyr, Excal, of course, Wukong, all the exalted Warframes, Korra. Lots of Warframes actually really don't care that much whether or not they're holding a competent gun, and you can really get by in the vast majority of missions with whatever they happen to be holding, plus being them. So your free space being your Warframe is very, very compelling, especially if you're someone who more so cares about collecting all the Warframes and you're keeping up to date with that, and not so much on the weapon side. This also allows you to build like whatever crappy weapon, like a regular Magnus, and just hold on to it for the week if you're just looking to get your completion on your Archimedea. That is one way to go about it. The other way to go about it is if you mostly collect weapons and you have like just some favorite Warframes, but you have like a Warframe that you just could equip that you don't really want to make a build for, is to put together what I would call a slop build. So we're going to show this off really quickly. This is just going to be sludge, basically. It's this. So the core here is just whatever aura you can fit. I have Dreamer's Bond here because it's universal, plus this core of 4 mods, which is Fast Deflection, Vigilante Vigor, Adaptation, and a Redirection mod. Obviously, your Warframe does need to have shields for this, but most of them do. This gives you basically a very low cooldown between your shield being deactivated and turning back on and recharging very quickly, alongside damage reduction and more shields. This is usually paired with Aegis. Even one copy of Aegis will do the vast majority of its effect, and it's very good to have. You really should get one if you don't have one. And we're also using some additionals here, just kind of if they happen to fit. Rolling Guard is a get-out-of-jail-free card. Just be invincible whenever you hit the roll button is pretty good. And then Fleeting Expertise plus like any Augur mod, really whatever you want. Just allows you to turn your shields back on if something bad's going to happen. Shields back on with whatever nonsense crappy ability you want to cast. Say you're playing Banshee. Just hit your 1. And it's fine. Your shields will turn back on, and that's the actual important bit. In addition to that, builds like this are usually supplemented by an arcane that's going to increase your weapon damage, so arcane precision in this case, and the weapons that you're like to bring with a sloppy build like this, if you just don't care about the Warframe you're bringing and just want to bring a good gun, are stuff like the Torrid, the Furus, the Latron Incarnon, Miter Incarnon, mostly like really good Incarnon weapons that can kind of just kill everybody you can see on screen. That's usually what's going to be used with a build like this if you really just want to be tough and shoot guys, which is a reasonable ask, I think. There's also, a lot of different ways to just like build out just pure survivability, like all the Umbral mods or whatever, if you happen to be on Inaros, though he's built kind of that way anyway, and you shouldn't really have any problems if you're Inaros, I think. With that, that is kind of what's going on here. Of course, the thing that we're going to circle back to is that while you can, of course, get carried just to get into Elite Archimedea, which people are very nice about helping with, I've seen, you can, of course, just win trade for Elite Archimedea. If you just don't want to deal with it, but you have time to run it twice, the Disruption, Mirror Defense, and Exterminate in this case, you can just run the mission with their deviations and risk variables with none of this stuff checked once, and then trade off with someone else that you're running it with, and just run it as, like, essentially, like, passenger princess mode, where someone's just taking you through it, and then you take them through it. And that's pretty viable. If you just don't want to deal with all this, as long as you do have the gear to equip, you can kind of just make it work. And that is a very real way to get all of these done each week. Is that kind of unfortunate? Yeah, I think so, and I think there's better ways that this mode could like more incentivize choice on the player's part to just do it, but we can talk about that now. So changes I would make to this before we get over to Temporal Archimedea and talking about all of like the notable personal modifiers that are not listed here and all the deviations and risk variables, which we are going to do. It's going to be in one section at the end of the video after we talk about the structure. I do think that this mode would be a lot better if the individual parameters were bumped to, let's say, 5 choices instead of 3 per one. And then the individual parameters down here, I actually would like to see this doubled, or at least like add 2 to make it 6. So we have a lot more of these. So the thing that we'd actually be doing as players is you'd be able to max out this bar by turning on all 8 of these parameters. And then functionally, you'd be choosing things from the individual parameters up top here on like the weapons that you could bring and the warframes that you might bring in order to make yourself able to turn more of these off. Say you don't want constricted or you don't want gear embargo for specific reasons. Like in this case, you don't really want gear embargo because it's good for mirror defense for you to have your gear. Doing things like that, I think, would really make this mode much more enjoyable than it is right now. But let me know in the comments what you think about that particular idea. For now, we're just going to move on to talking about Temporal Archimedea, which is very similar to this, but has a few quirks that we're going to discuss. Okay, here we are in 1999, very similarly to in the Alberic's labs, where you need max rank with the Cavia in order to be able to do Temporal Archimedea. You also need max rank with the Hex. So, slight spoilers for that, I suppose. We can fast travel over to Kaya, who runs Temporal Archimedea. For this is going to look much the same. The setup is very similar. Unlocking Elite requires you to do all challenges. Having Elite gives you many more rewards. It takes 2 of those Necrocell charges in order to do. The parameters are pretty simple, though there's a few changes here, and the individual parameters over here are also working the same way. Notably, they are different between the individual parameters on Temporal versus Deep, so maybe you could just choose to do one or the other, depending on if your individual parameters have worked out for you from week to week. But they're mostly the same, except for this is going to be the 1999 missions like Legacite Harvest and Hell Scrub, as opposed to like things like Mirror Defense that you get from the Albrecht Labs. In addition, there's one other wrinkle to this, which is that we have the Peely Picks. The Peely Picks are stickers, functionally, that you can tack on to a mission for effects. Now, notably, these are not consumable. Once you get them, you just have them and can just put them on a mission. They do level up as you get additional, quantities of them. You'll get at least 1 Peely pack from like completing each week at kind of a mid-level. We can see the Peely pack here, and you can see like the full list of everything you can get out of it. But once you have a sticker, functionally you just have the full functionality of that sticker. There's slight bonuses for getting them to like higher levels, but for the most part, having it at its first level is really going to be the primary thing you want, especially for the ones that I would say are the better ones of the bunch. Now, this UI is kind of a mess for like talking about these, and I will also note that I'm actually still missing 2 of them, even though I've been getting my extra sticker pack each week. So we're going to very quickly talk about all of the stickers and kind of the ones that are going to be relevant to you week over week. Okay, so here's the full list of all of the stickers on the wiki. I'm going to go over and just talk about the ones that have relevant effects that you're going to run into, starting with the one that I don't have. One of the ones that I don't have that I really wish I did, because it's going to be very good for certain weeks. This is Breathless. Gain 100% resistance to gas and toxin for 30 seconds. Collected health orbs add 10, 15, 20 seconds. This is great because sometimes toxin parameters are going to happen, and being immune to it sure is going to make your life much easier. Similarly, Burgerfest is also going to make your life much easier because this can heal defense targets. Really good. Anytime defense pops up, you just want to slap Burgerfest on it. This will help keep the defense target in tip-top shape. Really good one. Besides that, we're going to skip through a bunch of these here, but I will note really quickly, these equip N and then a weapon ones are fine, but usually you don't really need a weapon for most of the objectives that are going to occur in Temporal Archimedea. Like there's no like specific like different things you'll really need a weak point for outside of maybe the tank. And if you somehow roll just all terrible weaponry, theoretically you could use a sticker for the tank to get a reasonable gun with a damage bonus on it. So you might use it for that, but mostly these will go unused, I would say. In addition, we have Fly, which is like grenades that can be thrown at Hell Scrubbers to instantly clear contamination. This is like a minor thing that you might be interested in using. For me personally, melee weapons do more than a sufficient job of clearing the Hell Scrubbers for me. We have Going Steady. This is just knockdown resist. Pretty reasonable one. If your Warframe doesn't already have that, like, with Prime Sure-Footed or whatever else, it's a reasonable one to add on here. High Score, which is a pretty good one for the longer missions. This allows you to build up points and just kind of get revives. So if you think that you might be in danger, this is an okay one to be slapping onto missions like that. Then we get to talk about 3 of the ones that are kind of different than all the others. These are the ones that award an additional Pix chip, which are the reward chips you're going to be able to use in Kaya's shop, which we're going to talk about after this. This is It Sees You, which causes an antimatter drop to spawn near you and start following you. I found this to be pretty negligible. This is probably the easiest of the 3 of them that there are in order to get more Pix chips on very consistently, just on easy and short missions like Exterminate. Similarly, Old Pizza, which is on damage, you have a chance to get a toxin status effect. This like can theoretically be bad for you, but most of the time, especially once again on short missions, it's really easy just to slap this in and just have everything be all right. Um, and then we have Optimism, which is I actually just recently got access to this one, so I have not used it a whole lot, which is slowly build stacks of cold, adding a stack every 4, 6, 8 seconds as you level it up. Freezing occurs at 10 stacks, lasts for 3 seconds. Rolling or using Void Sling thaws 3 stacks, gain 1 Peely Pix. So for this one, if you're like me and your roll button is bound differently than your sprint button, probably really good to use. If you have not gotten into the habit of just rolling around at the speed of sound like I have, probably this is going to be way more of a huge pain. But either way, we're going to talk about some ways that you can get all 3 of these really easily. And we're going to just move on to the rest of these here. So the rest of these here, you know, kind of not much up until Slippery Customer. This one, I think, is one of the best ones, as this is Get Out of Jail Free card. This is on the first time being down to get teleported and revived. Instantly regain 50% of your health and shields and become invulnerable for a number of seconds. Just really good. If you think there's a mission where it's relatively likely you're going to make one big mistake or something along those lines, just slap it in there. Real easy. Just when you would die, instead don't. You get a free oopsies on the sticker. Really good one. Super solid. Followed up directly by weak point kills generate null stars. This, like, you know, having 12 of these gives you 60% DR. Really solid effect. Just much more damage reduction. Makes you more survivable. It's a good one overall. If you're not going to be doing any weak point kills, obviously it'll do nothing for you, but weak point kills are not super rare with most Warframes, I would say. Otherwise here, just moving on through, I think there's one more that's I want. Oh yeah, there's 2 more that I wanted to talk about, which is a vintage tech, which is summon a Necromech, and then Wake Up Call, which is get a Thermian RPG. These are notable because Thermian RPG, you can use this and summon the RPG when you're doing the tank, which can just make that fight faster. Kind of nice, I guess, if you don't need any of the other ones, like the no toxin damage. And then summon a Necromech. I wanted to note this one because as much as it might seem like your brain is very huge and you summon a Necromech and then you can really kill the Legocytes super hard, yeah, it doesn't work. The Legocytes have attenuation. They're heavily attenuated. They just die in kind of a minimum amount of time, and it's a huge slog no matter what you do. So doing like the super huge damage from the Void Rigs 4, yeah, no, it doesn't actually do anything meaningful. They functionally have infinite health, and like it doesn't matter how much damage you do, they'll die at just like the same rate they always die at, because they're functionally just a timer. So yeah, you can't really get around that with the Necromech if you were thinking that. But yeah, similarly, like the Thermian RPG, again with the Legocytes, it doesn't kill them faster. They're just a bunch of timers that spawn during that mission, and that mission takes forever because of it. But yeah, that's what's going on with the stickers. Few good ones in here. There's some other ones that are just like fine. Like if you don't have the ones that I talked about, you know, just adding in like, hey, an enemy randomly gets Sarin Spores is like not bad. It's a totally reasonable thing. And I'm like, even this top one here for Argon combo, which is weak point kills, maybe you get some orbs or whatever. It's all fine. But yeah, moving back in, let's talk about what's actually in the shop to get those Peely Picks. Now, the thing I wanted to note real quickly is that for stuff like Old Pizza, to get more of those Peely Picks, you don't have to do Elite Archimedea. You also don't have to do any of these individual parameters at all. You can just do a second run with all of the ones that give you additional Peely Picks and just get the additional Peely Picks every single week. There's nothing stopping you from doing such a thing, so have at it. That's just a free additional 3 Peely Picks. Now, notably, down in the rewards here for for the Pix Chips, these Pix Chips, you get 6 at 28, and then you get 9 more at 37. 37 is every single parameter filled, and I really would not suggest that people do that. The reason I would really not suggest that people do that is because it's just not worth it right now. If we look at Kaya's shop, these are her current offerings. You get 6 of them for doing kind of the normal, like, 1 free space completion that you do in Deep Archimedea, and that's enough for 1 of any of the arcanes. Now, from an evaluation level, Universal Fallout, it's good on like a 2 or 3 Warframes. This is not that good on those Warframes, and it gives you like the ability to have like a little unique energy generation. Not really worth going through full restriction unless your full restriction is something you want to play anyway. Arcane Escapist, this is just pretty bad. Doing mercy kills gives you an Escapist stack, and then as you get those, you like don't die when you die functionally. Really nothing. Would never waste my Arcane slot on this. And then Hotshot. Hotshot's the actually good one. This is competitive with Arcane Avenger, especially on Warframes like Mesa, for just like giving you an absolute ton of crit chance. So this one's actually good. Great news, you get 6 of these per week, and if you get 6 pix chips per week, you can just go in and just buy this. You can just grab this, and then your purchase limit for the week will be done. It's not like you're going to get 3 copies of Hotshot instead of just 1 for getting those extra 9. You can only get 1 a week anyway, so it's really not such a big deal. In addition to that, though, the thing that you're, or at least I'm doing, is you can get a Peely pack, or you can get a display, which is fun, but just a cosmetic that you'll probably get over time, and Voss for cash. The Voss for cash, it's 200 Voss for, so it's like not nothing. Like if you're doing your weekly and you have all of these arcanes and you have all the Peely pack stuff done, and grab 200 Voss for every week for your pix chips, that's just fine. But in general, the thing that I've been doing is getting the Peely packs. Now, the Peely packs they're not worth you not having a free space for the vast majority of players. For me personally, I want to collect all these and like have all these be like maxed out and all of that good business. I finally got Breathless, actually. That is finally in my collection, so I will have that going forward. But I don't really think that it's particularly worth it for the vast majority of players to be going through and like trying to like complete their set of the Peely picks and stuff at greater difficulty for not, you know, for pretty minor rewards. Maybe you do that for like the first week, maybe 2. But like once you have the base level of the Peely picks, it's not really going to change very much as you level them up, and you're probably better off just taking a free space and bringing like at least a thing that you want to and can blow through this stuff. In terms of what can blow through this stuff, a lot of the same things we already talked about. Just good Warframe, Dante, Styanax, Baruch, like good Warframes that are self-sufficient, that don't need their guns. It's pretty much the way. There's way more of those now with the removal of the like pseudo-exalted restrictions. So like Gara and Atlas, I would say, are actually pretty reasonably on that list too. As long as your personal parameters down here are not too bad, you should be okay. Now, let's talk about what personal modifiers are bad, and then also which ones of the deviations and risk variables you should be watching out for. Okay, so we are here with the Archimedea, EDA, ETA. These are the personal modifiers and whether or not you should care. Now, I have organized these in a way that we can talk about really easily. So we have these just going in do we care order, which means that all the ones that we don't really care about are all together. We can talk about them like very, very minorly. But I'm just going to talk about the ones that are actually ever going to affect you, starting with Powerless. This is all abilities are disabled until the squad kills 50 enemies. So this is only ever a problem if you also have gear embargo, where gear cannot be used, for experienced players anyway. Otherwise, it might be a bit more of a problem if this doesn't apply to you, but if you have done significant investment in Railjack, you should have your on-call crew. And on-call crew are very, very strong, and they're very, very free. You can just drop them at the beginning of any given mission, and they can get 50 kills really easily if you've given them a decent weapon. So you can just use that to really plow through Powerless very easily. In addition to that, if someone else in your squad didn't take Powerless, they can just kill 50 guys pretty quick on in the mission, and that'll also remove your restriction. So not a terrible one, but can be rougher when it gets combined with worse and worse things. If you're using like, you know, a pretty bad Warframe that really doesn't do anything without their abilities, plus your weapons suck, plus, you know, plus L, plus ratio, plus so on and so forth, it's going to get worse and worse as the other modifiers get worse and worse. But with the easy modifiers we don't really usually care about, it's not a big deal. Undersupplied. Max ammo on all weapons is reduced by 75%. This one is a thing that makes it more notable whenever enemies have attenuation. This makes it so that you need to know which enemies have attenuation and which enemies that you need to shoot at a slower pace, because they are a secret timer that is just a timer that you're shooting at, and you're just going to dump all your ammo into and then not have any ammo left. This is enemies like the assassination target in Deep Archimedea, the big, the fragmented one. That enemy's just a timer. It doesn't really, you're not going to do more damage to that guy. You can just like swing like an unleveled, like regular bow at him, and he'll die at the same pace as being shot by the Furus. So it's really nothing. Like, just don't shoot at attenuated enemies. This includes like the Legacites in the Legacite Harvest. You'll just hit them with whatever has like efficient ammo supplies, because they don't really functionally take more damage from anything. So that's just a thing to be concerned about with here. It's not really a problem, but it's just a thing where you do need to pay attention to like what the game is throwing at you. Now, Constricted is a bit worse. This max energy is reduced by 75%, and if you are a Warframe that really already doesn't have enough energy, Frost, then that's going to be a big, big problem. But for a lot of Warframes, the thing you're probably going to do is just go into their build, maybe edit it a little bit, maybe take out like a little bit more strength that you maybe don't necessarily need, and throw flow in there. Things of that nature are pretty much going to solve this one, but you may need to actually make a build change. And it's annoying because of that, because you'll have to go in and edit your build and then edit it back and so on and so forth. Energy exhaustion, lose 2 energy per second for each enemy within 10 meters of you. This is only really notable because if you're a melee Warframe, it means you're going to get significant drain all the time if you're not staying a little bit away from enemies. This one's only really a big problem, though, when you're in specific scenarios and are not like paying attention to that you do have it. Ability overload, using an ability opens a void rift on top of you. This one is annoying for Warframes like Zaku if you're like doing a bunch of casting or something, and it's just going to be constant explosions near you. Also a thing where Mesa really is not a huge fan of this. But that's just something to keep in mind. It's one you'll have to actually think about. No transference. This is no operator, no drifter. Annoying, not a problem. You do miss out on things like Xeneric and stuff like that, so you're going to have to think about that going into the mission, where like the energy generated by Xeneric, if your build depends on it, you're going to need to add some more efficiency or some other way to get energy. Gear embargo. This is the big one. This is the one that sucks the most to see whenever a specific mission is present, and that is any defense, whether it is mirror defense or defending flare on stage. It is absolutely terrible to not have gear. The reason for that is because you can get the ancient protector specters from New Loka, or by killing those specters whenever she sends them after you. And those are tremendously useful because they give damage reduction and heal your defense targets. You just toss them down, tell them to stay still, and they make these defenses much, much better. That's especially true whenever you have bad modifiers on the defense mission. So that's really the place where gear embargo hurts. Also, as we mentioned earlier, whenever you don't have your on-call crew, that is also the place where gear embargo really hurts when combined with stuff like powerless. This is one of the more annoying parameters for sure. Permanent injury. This is max health reduced each time health damage is taken. This is a specific one when combined with lots of toxin damage in a mission. So if you have like the toxic tank parameter, which we're going to talk about in a second, this is a huge, huge problem. This one is a huge problem. You are probably going to be like, planning on rezzing teammates and stuff whenever toxin and this are combined. Otherwise, it shouldn't be a big deal unless you are a health only Warframe. If you're like a Naros, and Naros absolutely hates this, please try and choose something else. Abbreviated abilities, one of my personal ones that I really hate. This is ability durations are reduced by 50%. This is awful. And makes a lot of Warframes way, way worse, especially all of your channeled Exalted Warframes. So like Excalibur, for example, duration turns into efficiency for channeled abilities, and getting minus 50% if you're a Warframe that usually running like 100%, like Excal is a huge detriment to your energy economy. Besides that, of course, it just makes a lot of Warframes much more annoying to play, especially the Warframes that are already trying to build 200% duration just to try and get like, reasonable duration on their abilities for their like energy cost or whatnot. Really annoying one. Really, this is one of the major ones where it's like, it's just time for Baruch. It's abbreviated abilities plus energy max. That means it's Baruch week. And that's what is going on here. Exposed, shields are removed. This is also a really tough one, probably one of the tougher ones. I will note that I don't feel like I've seen this one in ages, but I also might have just blocked it out of my mind and used the good things for this, which are Dante and Styanax and any Overguard generation, Kalervo. If there are no shields, the Warframes that don't have shields anyway really could give a fuck less about that. So those are also all really good at it. Otherwise, the do we care is no for the rest of these. Like ammo depletes is kind of whatever. Take electrical damage every few seconds, kind of whatever. Less Overguard gain. This doesn't really matter because Overguard is mostly used for its extra gating as in general anyway, so it's kind of whatever. Casting ability reduces your armor. Doesn't really matter. Casting abilities hurts you. You do no damage while not moving. Press W forehead. Like, I just, like, really easy things to take care of. In total, about half of them might matter or are really annoying, and about half of them are kind of nothing. So usually you'll end up with 2 modifiers. There you go, oh, this again. And then 2 modifiers where you go, oh, that it doesn't exist at all. So that's kind of where we'll end up here. Moving on down the list, though, we have some notable deviations to talk about that I do just want to mention. First and foremost, we have Toxic Tank. Toxic Tank is that the tank in Assassination for ETA has just toxin on everything. If you're a Warframe that mostly survives just based on shield gating and stuff, guess what that doesn't work on? Toxin damage. So if you're bringing Korra into this, you're probably going to have a bad time without like at least like a vitality mod or a like very consistent way to heal, whether that's like gloom or whatever else. A lot of Warframes really don't like toxin damage, and it will just kill them. So please at least look at this one and think about what it's going to mean for your loadout. Vamp Rock, this is that Flare creates a field that disrupts player abilities while draining energy to boost Flare's health. Flare slowly loses health when no players are in range. This one's crazy annoying. It basically means that you have to walk into a nullifier field and drain your energy in order to make Flare not die. Super annoying. Really, really annoying one. Not a good time, especially like doing this one solo. Would not suggest it. You had another reason to just bring a squad into this one. Very nice whenever somebody is just like, standing next to them and everyone else is killing everybody. But yeah, managing this one is a real pain. Very helpful whenever you can just heal them from afar. With like the Burger Fest and stuff like that, stickers and such. But yeah, this one is just annoying. Hellscrub, a notable return to form here with the 3 notable ones. 2 of them are toxin damage. This is the entire region, deals toxin damage over time. This one, the toxin damage is not that much, but it will kill you. So bring healing. It's not a whole lot, but it will kill you over time if you have no way to heal. So make sure that like you have like operator healing, weapon healing, something somewhere to put you back on health. Of course, health orbs from Xmas and stuff will also be there to heal you up, but there are of course combinations of the different personal modifiers and such like that can make it a real pain. So those are the ones that are notable here: Assassination, Defense, and Hellscrub. There's other modifiers, and I will note here, just while we're talking about ETA, that Legasite Capture pretty much is always going to suck. No matter what the parameters are for it, it's just going to spawn a bunch of attenuated enemies that'll just sit in front of you and eat bullets for minutes on end. It's not a mode that I enjoy very much. I'm going to have a video that's talking about how that mode doesn't even make sense in the way that it exists currently in the future. But yeah, that mode's always going to be bad. It doesn't really matter what parameters you get. They're always going to suck. EDA, though, we have just a couple ones here that I thought were worth noting, just one for Mirror Defense and one for Disruption. This is eroding. Senses the Oracle and Vitrium take damage over time. Collecting the required Phosphine glyphs will halt the degradation and partially heal them. So for this, this is the one in particular where you really do want to have that Ancient Healer that you can get from New Loco, once again, in order to really mitigate this one. This one can be a ginormous pain if you do not have that. But otherwise, it shouldn't be a huge deal. Otherwise, you'll have to be really, really particular with, being very good about defending it and collecting all of the Phosphine. And then the Unified Purpose, this is for Disruption. Enemies can target and destroy conduits. This just means that you're basically changing Disruption, a very, very good mode, into mobile defense, which is so, so fun. So, having a Warframe protect the conduit while someone else goes and kills the disruptor that's going to be coming up to try and blow it up is usually the way that this is going to go. It kind of changes the game mode a little bit and makes it so you do have to think about this. Otherwise, it's going to take so much longer to complete. Risk variables, just a few that I wanted to note here that can pop up. These are more minor. These can appear on any given mission. And we just have a few to talk about that are very annoying and should be considered. First, we have the Vampiric Liminus. These are slow-moving, immortal Liminus that drain health and energy from allies who get too close. These are especially annoying on game modes where you're sitting still. So they're just like the Shadow Man. They walk up to you, and if you're not paying attention, they touch you, they take all your energy, and they kill you. And they're super annoying. There's no way to deal with them other than just like bringing them far away with whoever they happen to be following. On quick missions, really won't matter. On missions where you're hanging out like a defense, it's crazy, crazy annoying. Bolstered Belligerents, all enemies have overguard equal to 50% of their max health. This one's only here because it's notable that if you do have any kind of crowd control plan, there no more crowd control plan. Just kill them. Everyone has overguard. Crowd control does not work. So that's just the thing that I wanted to note here. Myopic Munitions, this is a really annoying one, which is enemies will only take damage if a player is within 15 meters of them. If you are a melee frame, you'll never see this coming. If you are a Warframe like Cyto 9, you are in Spain without the S. It is a terrible modifier for certain Warframes, and it is crazy, crazy annoying in most cases that you are not playing specifically melee. Another one that is crazy, ridiculously annoying is Competition Streak. This is random negative effects from Face Off, the game mode, not the movie, will be applied throughout the mission. There are a ton of these. Some of them are kind of nothing. Some of them are you can't use abilities for like 30 seconds, which is super annoying. There's just a bunch of just nonsense things. I mean, a lot of these are like the reason why people don't really care for face off, in addition to the attenuated enemies. Once again, there's a similarity there, weird. But yeah, a lot of these modifiers, hopefully you'll just random into ones that don't really matter, as there's a good number of those. But sometimes you'll really get screwed by this one. And then finally, we have heavy warfare, which is enemies take 90% less damage from non-heavy weapons. Enemies will drop heavy ammo packs and yada yada. This one, for whatever reason, don't know why, could theoretically combine with gear embargo, which just means that all enemies have 90% DR, which is kind of more the reason why this one's notable. Because, you know, if we get to, you know, certain missions like Legacite and all that, where it's like no gear and enemies take 90% less damage. I guess actually for the Legacites it wouldn't matter because they're a timer anyway. But yeah, it'll be really annoying, just even on like regular enemies. Whenever everybody has 90% DR, it can be a real problem if your weapon's not pretty good. So I did want to note it here. But yeah, that's what's going on with the Archimedeas and such, and all the deals. Notable also here at the end of the video, just to wrap up here with everything discussed, if you are doing these on the weekly and you want to get into groups for, like, you know, whether it's like trading back and forth, like you do like a no parameters run and then do a full parameters run and, like, you know, kind of win trading or whatever, and doing that stuff, or if you're just looking for a place like to have like a competent group of people, in the description down below, discord.gg/Brozime, on Sundays and Mondays usually, but also, you know, just kind of generally throughout the week, people are doing their Archimedea in there, or are willing to help with an Archimedea, and good place to get a squad together if you are looking to start doing this, or, like, you know, build advice and so on and so forth. Of course, you can always go to brozime.com and type in any given Warframe, and I have builds for every single Warframe that are up to date, with I think one exception. This should be soon. But yeah, that's the Archimedeas. No run in here, honestly. Like, if you want to see like a bunch of runs of this, let me know in the comments. I can like start recording those week over week and, like, you know, put up a huge thing of like a bunch of different runs, but they're very different from week to week. So like showing one example run, I don't really feel is as useful as like just talking about all these different things that are going to matter that can happen. But yeah, that's both Archimedeas. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you. It's a kind of a long one. So I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. Hey everybody, it's time to thank the patrons that are hanging around and supporting the channel. So, start with that. The $10 patrons are Athean, Alex Farnham, Arbiter Daydream, Barkus, Benuven, Plotomatic, Brutus Salazar, Candelathra, Slop World, Dylan Dworsky, Athrain, James Harthorn, JC4 Science, Josh, Luzanth, Bicklekill, Michta, Nerve, Ruby, Sanyu, Sharp247, The Coupon of Death, Waifu Wars, Wodad01, and Zeraphir. Also, thanks, of course, to all of the other patrons for supporting the channel. It is much appreciated. It's a little sneak peek on what we're getting into. There's going to be a lot more of these kind of big re-reviews of weapon types and their new builds and stuff, as things changed a lot at the end of last year. And of course, there's also planned new free-to-play before we get into any, you know, more big updates. So look forward to that.